Capcom for the first time. Shane Larson goes defensive. We're almost 3 wide as we have Meisel now getting involved in the action, but it's Larson who leads Arnold in second place.
Come in with all that traffic right there.
Yeah, really strategic. Oh, there's a big accident there. Who was that spinning out? There's an LMP2 involved as well. The 38 car. Oh, that's wide from P2 there. He's in the barrier.
You're coming up on the field right now. This is our tightest battle on the track right now. In the 7th spot is Matthew Duder, right behind Agustin Castro and Justin Hall right ahead of him. So this is a battle for the 5th, 6th, and 7th spot. And it looks like Matthew Duder right there. Oh, we've got a car in the sideways in turn 3 again.
And welcome on in to the Wrong Stuff Racing League's final round of Season 2. We're here at Race 8 at the beautiful virtual Red Bull Ring here. Everybody knows it for Formula 1. We got 10-ish corners, really 9, but somebody counted turn 2. Today, I am going to be joined by Adam Thompson at the start. My name is Dustin Ollis, and we will have Randall McGrew here a little bit later to join us. How are you doing tonight, Adam?
Doing good. I'm actually looking really forward to this. Been about 3.5 months actually, that this league has been going on, and coming down to the final race. I want to get to the points real quick. We're probably not going to get through all of them, but I just want to bring up these Pro-Am, or the AM points, I apologize, because they are extremely close right now. Dre Divock is about 6 points, not about, he is 6 points off the or on the lead right now. Jake Luther is right behind him, so it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on tonight. But we have missed qualifying because somebody, I'm not going to say who, but Dre, I'm talking to you. I think you missed the time by about 10 minutes there, buddy, but we've got a grid to go through here, Dustin.
Yep, and we're going to have Connor McClellan lining up on pole for your LMP2s today, followed closely right there by Wayne Castile. And you have Andrew Godaric and Aubrey Kundle right behind him. Chuck Moraro, Jack Lee in your 5th and 6th place. Justin Barrera and Joshua Benjamin will round out your LMP2s at the front of the grid.
You got 9th
and then you're going to...
Go ahead.
You're going to have Christian Gritzko, 9th place, bringing those GT3s up to the start with Justin Hall right behind. Phil Coffey and Diego in your 11th and 12th place tonight. Braden Carroll will be your 13th. And Q Nin in 14th, actually going to hop up with those LMP2s to get up to the start. Chris Sanchez and Brian Long will be your 15th and 16th starters. Leon Clover and Thomas Fisher in your 17th and 18th place. Joey Rutledge and Jay Fuller back in 19th and 20th. Right behind them, you have Matthew Dweeter and Andrew Korosketsi. And 21st and 22nd, followed closely by Jake Luther and Bradley Alvis. And following them, we have a lot more GT3s tonight. Big field, Eric Rodriguez in 25th and Kevin Medeta. In Medita. There you go. 26. Layak Zier and Andrija. Dave, oh my God.
You want me to take it? I got this. I got this. Here, I'll take the rest of them here, Dustin. Lilac Zier, 27th with Andrea Divots there in 28th. Kenneth Michael, 29th. Zach Robinson, 30th. Bjorn Stange, 31st with Dominique Angelicchio beside him. Michael Hillier, 33rd. Stephen Finch, 34th. Billy Bowerman, 35th. Augustine Castro, 36th. And Brandon Johnson is going to be rounding out the field for the start tonight. I don't know how much you cover here, Dustin, or how much you've run this track, but kind of give me your thoughts if you have run it. I know you're not a huge GT3 fan. I think you're more of, the American muscle, right? So I don't know if you've gotten much practice with that car around here.
Yeah, I've done more LMP2, so I'm a little bit more familiar with the high downforce stuff around this track. And as they come to the green here, it's going to be all out throttle. Not a lot of passing opportunities because it's just such a short lap, but we're going to have a lot of laps to get her done tonight. As we get down to turn 1, Wayne Castile pulling up in the lead. Everybody kind of getting single file through that turn 1, avoiding the sausage curb on the outside that will happily kill an LMP2 car and probably even a GT3 car tonight.
Yeah, it absolutely will. I know we see the GT3s going through the turn 1, but I want to see how these LMPs handle. I'm going to call it turn 2 because, let's be honest, it needs to be turn 2 anyways, because that's where they're going to get most of their overtakes done. That is a 499 car. It looks like a wrong stuff car. Who was that just went around right there? Connor? No, it wasn't Connor McClellan. Who was that?
I believe that would be Jack Lee, who is currently about 6 seconds off of the person in front of him, if I'm not correct.
Now it's unfortunate.
Yep, Jack Lee.
See what happened here. It looked like he got into the corner. On corner exit, I think he may have just dumped it, got on the throttle a little too much. Yep, just spun it around. Did want to talk about Connor McClellan as well. Connor has been absolutely killing it this season in the LMP2s, and we were giving him a bit of a kind of a just jabbing him a little bit, told him he needs to start from the pit lane, and guess what he's done? Connor McClellan back here just now about to come up through, no it's not, because I wasn't on live, about to come into the start-finish straight, already up here doing what he can, about 2 minutes off the back of Kwok Nin there in 8th place, so it's going to be interesting to see what Connor can do to get this done.
Yeah, one of those cars, not like the other back there in all those GT3s. And the GT3s are just absolutely loving being passed this early in the race by an LMP2.
Oh, I can
It's one of
only
those
imagine.
things you have to deal with. An hour-long race, you're going to get passed later, but when they're all bunched up like this, it is just sheer chaos trying to get through them.
It absolutely is. And you know what I haven't talked about, and I know we missed the GT3 start, and I apologize, guys, everybody, but I'm sure we can get that when we do the post-race interviews and stuff to kind of see what happened into Turn 1. Christian Gritzko up here in the lead. He was actually battling very hard with Justin Hall a couple races ago around Nürburgring. Christian's up here, and I have no idea where Justin went. Oh, he's right there in 2nd place. So this is going to be a very interesting race between these two. These guys have really duked it out here in the past. Or duked it out in WSRL here in the past. So going to be interesting to see how close these two can stay together. And speaking of the leaders right now, Andrea Divac. We're going to go around here, try to go find him, see where he is, back there in 18th position, and see exactly, where he is in relation to the other drivers in his class, which you can now see have popped up. He's 5th place right now in the AM. Really needs to get up there to Jake Luther. Jake Luther has a chance to steal this championship from him tonight.
Yeah, it's just hard to believe after 7 full rounds, they are going to be, down to a couple of positions in points.
Yeah, this is really, it's going to be interesting to see what Andrea can do here tonight. Dre, I'm going to start calling him Dre. What he can do here to try to get back up there to Jake Luther. He's not too far off yet, but you can see that gap really starting to form there. Just going to have to see exactly what Dre's going to be able to pull out here. Sorry, guys, got a bit of some weird stuff going on here with the overlay right now. I think it's just trying to sort everything out as some drivers were coming out of the pit lanes. Some were, some started where they weren't supposed to start, so timing tower's going a little wild here. But we are going to stay on here with Dre going down again through into turn 3. Technically, really didn't have the run that I thought he would have. These GT3s don't really seem to have the slipstream that I thought they would, especially going into 3, Dustin.
Yeah, it looks like the slipstream can keep them together, but it's certainly not a DRS style, just absolute floor it and go flying into the braking zone. And, of course, it is an hour race, so you have to kind of stress that. Nobody's probably going to make any crazy moves, but you want to do it while everybody's close together and early, as we have the 205 car looking sideways onto the track there.
Appears to be like that is Chris Sanchez, and Chris, OBS has kind of ratted you out a little bit, so we're going to have to see what exactly happened here. Going into...
Going to be the big braking zone, turn 4, down
forward.
the hill, a little bit off angle, and you just touch the gravel on iRacing, and you are going for a ride.
Yeah, that is a very scary spot to do it, too. With all those GT3s coming through, looks like he's holding the brakes, just letting them all go. So great job on Chris for doing that. But with those GT3s, it's kind of a corner that you wouldn't really, you can't really see around. So you see a white Beamer on the exit of 4, it probably get your attention just a little bit.
Yeah, when your spotter starts calling keep left, slow car on the right, that's when you just imagine you're probably going to have to run through the grass or the gravel right there.
Yep.
But he kept it off track, kept it together, and everybody got around. It is a pain to watch 20 cars drive past you, but it's so much better than getting hit and losing your entire race.
Yeah, it really is. Remember we were talking about Connor McClellan starting from the pits here, Dustin? Well, he's already passed Q Nin, and he is tracking down Chuck Morrow at a rate of not. Last lap, he was about a full second faster than Chuck. And with an hour race, with especially dealing with traffic, as you can see, Wayne Castile is already about to get up to the back of the 214 car of Agustin Castro. We're only on lap 5. We're 5 minutes into this race.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I mean, he went through the entire GT3 field and now is just in clean air. His opponents in front of him are going to have to make that first pass through of the GT3s, which he's essentially completed at this point. He's about a half lap behind. You see him coming up to the turn 2, turn 3 area, and his competitors are going through the S's right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Back here on the lead for the GT3 class, Gritzko and Hall are not allowing each other any room for error at this point. If you are Justin Hall right now, you can see about the 1 second gap back to Will Coffey, who, by the way, is doing a glorious job in that GT3, but about 1 second back off of Justin Hall. You're Justin. What do? You trying to ride around, or are you trying to take that lead? What do you want to do with an hour-long race? How do you think fuel and tires are going to affect these GT3 cars around a track that normally likes to shred them?
Well, that's normally my thought in any endurance race, is let somebody do the work for me. If I can get behind somebody, they can manage traffic, they can handle everything else, I will stick to their bumper as long as possible until the pit stops. But with this track shredding tires, you know, it's just kind of infamous for the amount of problems it can cause around such a short lap. And how many laps they're having to do here. There's not a ton of straightaway. There's one really good straightaway. They're probably thinking tires a lot more often than you would expect in GT3s, where sometimes they double and triple stint them in real life.
So I just mentioned that Will Coffey was a second back, and Justin had nothing to worry about. Half a lap later, Will Coffey is on the back of Justin Hall's bumper. I'm actually going to ride on board here with him and try to take you guys on a lap around, because we weren't able to do it in qualifying. Again, this is Will Coffey in the GT3, third place overall. He is in the Pro-Am class as well, so he's doing a wonderful job doing his thing right now. So you can see Will going into turn 1. This is where I thought you were going to get more passing opportunities. This is the longest straight on the track. Going, and I am going to call it a straight. I know they are now going through turn 2. It's not technically turn 2, but whatever. Or it is technically turn 2, but it's not a corner. Will getting a little bit wide. You can see him try to go for the over-under, try to get a good exit, but Justin Hall just parked it there on the apex of turn 3. This is another passing opportunity coming up going into turn 4. With the right-hander, but you got to be careful. We have seen, again, this isn't an F1-driven track, and we watch F1 around here a lot. There are a lot of incidents going into 4, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here later. Use all the curb on the exit. Get as far out as you can. Don't use too much. We saw what happened when you do that. Going into turn 5, or turn 6 now, I apologize. Double left-hander here, using the curb on the inside. You can let the car wash out, but you got to be careful with the off-tracks there. You can get a little bit wider than that, and that's when you get the off track. Again, turn 7 now, and then into 8. Another pretty long run down into turn 9, double right-hander. You're going to see how much track you can use on the exit here coming out of 10. So you got turn 9 here. You wash it all the way out to the left side of the track. You can see Justin Hall went way wide there. Cut as much off as you can on 10, and that'll complete your lap. A pretty quick lap around here.
Yeah, so, I mean, the shortest in Formula 1. It's, you know, a track that really you can see the leaders are pushing it to get over those little sausage curbs and use them for traction, and they will give you a little bit of bite if you hit them right. But Will Coffey's really being measured in his attack. He's not going over those curbs. He's using the right amount of everything.
Yeah, he really is. He's doing a great job right now, Will, up back there in third place. But we do have the number 33 car of Wayne Castile trying to slice and dice his way through this just absolute mess of GT3s. That's the only way I can explain how many GT3s are out on this track right now.
it's like we said, we're not getting, huge gaps. Everybody's kind of staying together. They're luckily not, drafting so much they're constantly too wide. So the LMPs will be able to get through relatively easily because they're just straight line speed. But you got to take measured approaches to everything around here in an endurance race.
Absolutely.
Take the right line.
Look at this. Watching the nose cam of Wayne Castile right now is just unbelievable watching him slice through these GT3 cars. Dustin, it's been a lot of fun chatting with you up here. We've got the guy that knows what he's talking about. Mr. Randall McGrew has found his way into the commentary booth, so I'm going to leave you guys to it.
Thank you, Adam. How are you doing tonight, Randall? That good, huh?
Yeah,
and it looks like Randall's having a few issues here.
Yeah. I just saw that push to talk. Hi, guys. I'm here. Just got out of a car myself. Running just a little bit late. Double booked myself like a really intelligent person. We're watching Wayne Castile making his way through the field as we're looking now at the GT3 leaders. Looks like we got quite a race developing here. Only 11 minutes in, still 49 minutes to go. How many guys do you think are out here conserving tires, Dustin?
That was the question earlier was how hard would I push it? And right now, I wouldn't be pushing it much at all. They have to be trying something just to get around and not burn the tires off of these poor cars.
It's a delicate balance on a track like this. I heard you mention this track notorious for shredding tires. It's difficult to baby them and race at the same time. Because we're seeing the top of the GT3 order, very well ordered, not a lot of noses sticking out looking for opportunities. But the LMP2 traffic is making its way through the field. It could really break up some of these battles.
And I mean, the LMP2s are trying to hold their own battles as you see them coming down into turn 4. Really notorious kind of odd turn coming down the hill. They both take it pretty well, but you see it spaces them out. And that's going to cause one of them to get caught behind the Ford GT3.
So often you see in races like this where it's multi-class, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. It's all about managing that time loss. Sometimes you got to give up a few tenths here and there to give up fewer tenths later. You see a lot of that strategy going on as the LMPs are making their way through the GT3 field. We see Chuck Morrow trying to track down that number 13 of Lee, getting through the GT3s. We have a bit of a gaggle here. Now a battle for second coming up the hill. Looks like Gritzko is going to look to the inside.
Yep.
And, there's a little bit of contact.
Pushes Gritzko off. Gritzko goes over that poor little sausage curb and apparently has broken something. He decides to go all the way back to the pit lane.
Gritzko looks like he's not enjoying the result of that. Maybe just pitting out of frustration, or you could be right. They could have broken a piece of suspension there. Sometimes the slightest amount of contact can have a huge effect on these cars. And now Will Coffey needs to keep that visor down and try to track down the leader.
Yeah, you gave Justin Hall an 1.5 second lead right now, and that's not going to be good for this battle for first. If you get too far away, they start losing that draft on that really long straightaway, and it's going to become a lot harder to keep up as these LMPs have to pass them 2 at a time versus just going around him as one car.
We see Justin Barrera lurking there in the background. Sometimes that traffic can help you close a gap, but sometimes it makes it wider. So it'll be very interesting to see how this works out in Will Coffey's favor as he now inherits second place. Across the line, he should see the number 2 appear on his windscreen as he follows Justin Barrera through turn 1 and up the hill they go through this not straightaway. Turn 2 somewhere in here. It's a curve. They don't have to lift at all. See, Justin Barrera is going to get past the GT3 leader and have some clean air for a while and try to run down the rest of the LMP2s. Now we're on board with Zachary Robinson and Brandon Johnson running nose to tail going into turn 1. Brandon right there behind him. You don't see many Fords in this league.
That's actually Lilac Zier up there in 17th
right.
place, I do believe, in that Ford.
You're right. Lilac Zier.
And our only, I believe, other Ford in the GT3 field right now is Thomas Fisher, representing the old style Ford GT, not the new one that you see being sold right now, but actually like the 2005 era car.
The Ford is the oldest GT3 in the field. We see a good mix of makes here. We see a Lamborghini. Now we're seeing, contact. going to collect another Mercedes in that. We saw the Mercedes on the inside of the Porsche, just a little bit of side-to-side contact and spelled disaster there. And it looks like people are back underway, but Dustin, what do you think happened there?
That's just one of those really difficult braking zones, kind of pulled out too late, I do believe. We will see a replay actually coming up the hill into turn 3 before the straightaway now. So already side by side through here.
I think this is a different incident, Dustin.
Oh, yes.
The one we were looking at was a Porsche. Here we go. This is the right one.
Yep, already side by side coming down the hill into turn 4. Already difficult braking zone, and you want to widen it as much as possible, and just widened it a little bit too much. And that American flag Mercedes and caught the Porsche, and unfortunately just caught the 325 there in a horrible position, and there's nothing he could have done to prevent that.
Absolutely rotten luck for Bjorn Stang. He was out there, an innocent victim, a race developing behind him, got just a little bit too close, and he paid the price. And now we see Lilac Zier under pressure from Zachary Robinson in that turn 3, that very, very sharp uphill right-hander. Who gets the better run down the straightaway? Zachary Robinson has the inside line for the attack to turn 4. Can he get the pass completed here? And it looks like he will easily cover it, but oh no, don't look now. Here comes Lilac Zier back on the crossover. Zachary ran just a little bit too deep into that braking zone, and now finds himself staring at the rear end of that Ford once again, with Brandon Johnson in that Lamborghini lurking behind.
Just really good measured braking down into turn 4. Like I said, it's been difficult. It's obviously difficult for everybody, but brake a little early, let the guy beside you kind of go way too deep, and pick it right back up.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Connor McClellan started this race from the pits, did he not?
Yes, started from the pits, had to get through the entire GT3 field, and now already battling Chuck Morrow for 6th place.
And we see the gap ahead of them to Joshua Benjamin in P5 is about 7 seconds. It looks like he's closing that down even as we speak. So top 5 certainly possible here for Connor McClellan. And with this pace, I mean, do you think a podium is possible?
He started about 31 seconds off the lead at the end of lap about 3, and that was while passing traffic. Already has the gap to the leader down to 27 seconds. So we've shaved 4 seconds off. It's going to be hard to get there, but it's very possible if anything happens in traffic. You see him making a great move down the double left-hander.
That's pretty impressive with all that traffic to make up even just 4 seconds. Now that he's going to have some clean air, it'll be very interesting to see what he can get done. Brandon Johnson now putting Zach Robinson under some pressure after failing to make and complete that move against Lilac, now finding himself falling into the clutches of the Lamborghini. If he's going to make a move, he needs to make it soon, or otherwise Brandon may have an opportunity to get around him. And if he fails another move, Brandon will be there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, and like our track map shows right now, it's really easy to follow somebody, but really hard to pass them around this place. There's not a ton of draft. As Q-Nin just decides to show me how it's done through turn 1 here. Going down the inside in the Porsche. Not going to push his opponent wide. Keep it nice and measured.
It's much more tame than we see in F1 races around here. Normally, you would see the outside car get pushed way wide and off the track limits. These drivers a bit more respectful. Not racing for as big of prize pools, so not as much to lose for losing a race. But always very clean racing in WSRL.
And just an endurance race, any little bump you have is going to cause you aero damage. And over a 5-lap race, not a big deal, 25 minutes or so. But over an hour, just a tenth a lap when we've already done 15 laps in 19 minutes. Like, just the addition of that little bit over an entire race length is so much worse here than it is in a sprint race.
So speaking of that short lap distance, as we see Lilac Zier under pressure again, can Zachary Robinson get it done? And now the 214 is coming out of nowhere, is going to get around Brandon Johnson, and Brandon's going to lose another spot to Matthew Dweeter in the process. So some opportunistic moves going on in the field. So with this short lap time, over an hour, how many laps do you think that the leaders are going to run?
I feel like your LMP2s are going to be up at like 46, 47 laps. So it's definitely going to be a long one for them.
And I do know this series does limit fuel, so there will be a pit stop for fuel. Do you think anybody will be taking tires on that pit stop?
That's, in my experience, as we see Wayne Castile coming in the pits, I wouldn't imagine too many sets of tires for the LMP2s. I would definitely think about it if I wasn't the leaders, but I just don't know how bad they think their tire wear is. If you feel the car going off right now, you might as well take tires because it's no point to stay out there and wreck the car.
So we see the LMP2s are all filing their way into pit lane now. 20 minutes into this race, that means they're going to need 2 stops for fuel. As we see, Jack Lee is going to stretch it out for another lap. That might come up and pay due later. In that final pit stop, he may be able to take a little less fuel and gain some spots on track. Lilac Zero running wide here.
Yep,
Oh,
Thomas Fisher, the other Ford. There's only 2.
I'm not used to seeing more than one Ford in the field, so I immediately assumed it was Lilac Zero, and you're right, it is Thomas Fisher running a little bit wide there. Falling back in the line, not too much time loss. Lost 3 or 4 spots, though. Hopefully he can get that back and make his way back up to where he was at, easily inside the top 10.
Yeah, and I'd say that's a really good job. That's a bad place. I mean, we've seen F1 drivers barely touch the gravel there and have a bad time. And to keep a GT3 car much heavier, just doesn't want to go on the gravel ever, keep it pointed straight and not lose a ton of time is impressive.
So right now we're on board with Augustin Castro, who's in that 214. We saw him make a very opportunistic move earlier. Now he is trailing Zachary Robinson. It looks like they've both made their way around Lilac Zier in the primary Ford. I'm going to call Lilacs the primary Ford. I'm just amazed to see 2 of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the 214 there actually up 9 spots so far on this race. So that's, a lot of good moves. We saw one. If they've all been like that, I wouldn't mind to watch some more.
So unfortunately, the number panels on the cars are reflecting their overall position and not their class position, as Augustin Castro is not quite an 18th, I believe. Or am I wrong?
I see him as 17th now, actually got another spot there after we cut away.
So
in class 26 overall.
Apparently, I don't know what I'm talking about. They are showing class positions. I'm sorry if you're watching and I'm confusing you, but they are showing class positions, so now that'll put Augustin up into P17, P11 in the Pro-Am division. That's
just something to keep track of.
These GT3s are broken up into 2 different divisions. So you have 2 separate races going on, and I believe they're going for the same points. So they're racing each other for position on track, but they're essentially 2 different leaderboards. You see this in a few different leagues. And that's what's going on here with the GT3 Pro-Am and the GT3 Am.
And as we're seeing our first GT3 pit stops, we're expecting them to do 2 stops pretty much no matter what. LMPs were going to be kind of close if they had to do a splash and go at the end, but it looks like they're going to be able to pull out just 2 stops. But the GT3s will make it easily on a 2-stop.
So pit strategy will come into play. When do you pit? When do you save? Do you try to stretch one out? Do you think the overcut or the undercut is more powerful here?
If you're going to have to go through a set of tires, you definitely want the undercut, as F1 normally shows. But because they're so fuel limited, I believe you could probably go either way. If you feel the guy in front's holding you up, go for the undercut. But if you feel like you can run away after he pits, just stay out further than him. Just base it on what he does.
So a reactive strategy is what Dustin thinks will work best. We're going back through the field here. Andre Divac, he is one of the league administrators for WSRL. Currently running in 6th in the GT Am category in that 301 Wrong Stuff Porsche, dealing with a little bit of traffic from the LMP2. That's Justin Barrera behind him. Andre Divac, your overall points leader in the GT3 Am division with a 6-point lead coming into this race. Is it possible for him to fall victim to Jake Luther?
As we see Jake Luther, actually they're all coming to the pits right now, but Jake Luther is about 5 to 6 spots ahead of him depending on the pit cycle, as we see him rolling into his pit box right now.
So this will be a very, very interesting battle to watch. If Jake Luther can cover enough spots over Dre, then he will take the GT3 Am championship.
And as much as I've been talking about the poor tires on these cars, because of the fuel limit, I don't think any of them are taking tires.
as we see the GT3 cars are starting to roll off pit lane. We did not see any cars on camera that were on the jack stand, so I do not think anybody's taking tires. Possibly at the second stop. It is very early to be taking tires, even on a track as notorious as the Red Bull Ring for destroying your tires. This is still pretty early.
As we see here, Connor, after starting in the pits, up to 4th place after the pit cycle, and absolutely hunting down the top 3.
It's going to be important to see how many of these cars he can get taken care of on this not straightaway, as they're still getting up to speed, and he comes around with a full head of steam. Looks like he's going to get 2 and make a move on the 3rd, going into turn 3, and now going to make his way through the rest of the GT3 field. It looks like he got a pretty good chunk of them through the pit stop, and he got a nice, comfortable gap to the car behind him. So he's already had a lot of experience making his way through the field after that pit start. Do you think that traffic management is going to be the key to the day there, Dustin?
That's because it's such a short lap, and we just have 28 GT3 cars out here. There's very few spots of the track where you're not going to be finding somebody right now. There's still a pretty good gap up at turn 3 right now for your 86 LMP2, but pretty much every other LMP2 has at least a GT3 in sight.
So unlike Sunday, where the WSRL Endurance Series had a race at the Nürburgring, the field got very stretched out. The lap was very long. The track super long. So you could go a lap or maybe even 2 laps without seeing another car. You're saying this race, it's just constant traffic management.
It's kind of like if anybody's an oval fan, if you go to Bristol Motor Speedway, you kind of just look at one spot and you always see a car. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're looking at, there will be a car in your vision. This is the equivalent of that for road.
So we see a little bit of contact there coming out of turn 1 between the Mercedes and the BMW of Matthew Dweeter and I believe that's Chris Sanchez. A little bit of a contact there. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe we get a replay pull up and Dustin, you can tell us what happened. But now Chris Sanchez is going to fall to the pressure of Zach Robinson in that Porsche. Dustin, what happened?
We see him coming up here, trying to make a move down the inside, broke just a little bit too late, and kind of just overshot the corner. And instead of holding up his opponent, he went over the curb, kind of just took the momentum and gave it back, which is kind of the respectful thing to do, but that curb is a little dangerous.
So it looks like both cars made it out of there with little to no damage, so no harm, no real foul. But now we see Braden Carroll coming into the pit lane from the P2 position in the GT3 field. And I believe that Diego Era has not pit yet.
I'm seeing him as actually of coming in on lap 15.
Okay, so I stand corrected. Diego inherits the lead after that pit stop and will now assume the GT3 lead after the first pit cycle. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But he's got a nice little gap back to Will Coffey, 6.1 seconds. Will's really got to buckle down and close this gap up. There's a lot of traffic, though, so that could help him or hurt him.
So, Dustin, I know you haven't really been around here for most of these WSRL streams, but back probably halfway through the season or so, Randall actually made a joke about himself. Randall's wrong pit calls. I'm gonna have to get a graphic made and get that put up. So every time Randall starts talking about pit stops, I can just pop that up. Because once again, good job, Randall.
I'm incredible at calling pit strategy for other drivers, and I get it wrong all the time. It's amazing. It's sometimes I use my powers for good.
And something I just wanted to point out about our leader here, he actually saved about 7 seconds on pit lane to Will Coffey. I don't know if that's in the stop or if that was just on pit lane itself, getting down to speed and up to speed. But he actually saved 7 seconds over his opponents.
So this track, also known for having a very tricky pit exit, it also has a pit entry that you can attack pretty hard. So you're right, he could have gained some of that time, but you have to think that maybe he was saving fuel and just had to stop for a shorter time.
And I've actually got the stats here in front of me. His pit stop was 2 seconds quicker, so he did make up a lot of time just in the acceleration and deceleration to his stall. That's impressive.
That is quite impressive. Some drivers practice the pit entry and exit more than others, and this is one of those tracks where it can really pay off. As we see, they're going to be going 3 wide into turn 3, and Andre is going to get the pass done, but the over-under is going to get him back, and they're going to finish in the same position that they entered. Dre really needs to get moving if he's going to catch Jake Luther, who is now 5 spots ahead of him. This could be a very much a nail-biter for the championship coming toward the end of this race. 30 minutes now, halfway done, half to go. What are your thoughts on this, Dustin? Do you think he can do it?
It's definitely go time if he's going to ever go. Halfway through the race, you got to start, stop saving so much. Start using it up. You got to make sure you have enough for the end, but now is the time to start really moving.
So it looks like for the LMP2 leader, unfortunately, Wayne Castile is going to get into traffic right at about the 40-minute mark. He might be most of the way through the GT3 field and have to give up all that hard work to pit and give it all back. So hopefully the stars align for him and he can get through that traffic relatively scot-free, get that pit stop in, and then when the GT3s pit, he will have clean air, and hopefully he can get most of those positions back during the GT3 pits.
Yeah. So we have pulled up here now by our wonderful producer, we have the lap over lap deltas. So you see Connor has been ranging anywhere from about a second to a second and a half a lap on Aubrey Kundal right in front of him. So expect that battle to happen here in the next lap or two.
So if you're in Aubrey Kundal's cockpit, what are you doing knowing that here comes McClellan? What are you thinking? What are you doing to prepare for this battle?
I kind of, honestly, in my opinion, if I saw this coming, that's kind of an unstoppable force. And I'm not an immovable object, so I think he's coming through. The question is, do I want to jeopardize my race and my time to hold him up when he has gained over a second a lap on me? And I honestly don't think I would. I think I would help him out a little bit and just follow him around.
So Dustin's saying discretion is the better part of valor, and he might be right. Maybe he can give up that spot, let McClellan lead him, give him a little bit of slipstream, and possibly even learn something. Where is McClellan gaining that time?
Here we see a big GT3 battle kind of brewing side by side down the front straightaway with Jake Luther. Gonna kind of break up a little bit before turn 1. Always wise to kind of give that one up, in my opinion. It's a tight corner, kind of awkward with the curbs, and you get the much better opportunity through 2 and 3 up the hill.
Joey Rutledge running that Ferrari. You don't see many Ferraris nowadays in the GT3 field, but Joey Rutledge in one, and we see another one lurking in the distance behind this group of cars as they're going to keep it nice and civil through turn 3. Jake Fuller going to try to use some of that slipstream to close the gap to that group ahead and maybe make this a 4-way fight for position.
Yeah, the GT3s are kind of in touch with everybody. Nobody's going for any crazy moves or anything yet. Not desperate until that final pit stop. As we see, Connor has absolutely caught Aubrey and got to make a move around the outside here. Will be the inside for turn 2, outside for turn 3. And it looks like he will actually get it done before the braking zone.
Aubrey Kundal giving up the position, backing out possibly a little bit early. Connor McClellan from the pits now up to P3, 16 seconds behind P2 and 22 seconds behind the leader. If you're Wayne Castile, are you even looking at the timing tower knowing that that's coming?
I feel like the horse blinders need to be on if it's me for Wayne Castile. I don't think you can worry about it because you're just going to drive the best laps you can, do the best traffic management you can, and if he catches you, that's when you worry about it.
Andrew Gajardik now in P2 is going to be the next one that's going to have to deal with Connor McClellan. Though he's got quite a bit of time, that gap down to 15 seconds. So likely not until after the pit stop will we see Andrew Gajardik, unless there's an issue dealing with traffic or has an issue with car contact while making his way through the GT3 field. We see he's got a big line of cars coming up the hill. And we have a replay of Jake Luther here.
Really wide, braking out on the curb. Manages to get it slowed down. So just a little bit too wide for iRacing and reported him as having an issue. Really just using a lot of the track.
So we're seeing now nearly 2 seconds faster Connor McClellan over Gajardik there on that last lap. That is huge. Now, some of that was Andrew Gajardik dealing with traffic. So it's difficult to judge how much of an average is because, like I said before, traffic taketh away. Some laps you're going to get lucky, some laps you won't.
Looked like Connor just had a little run-in with the 316 in turn 4. It looks like the 316 had a little issue and slowed him down just a little bit this lap. So this lap time won't be representative probably, but made it through clean, it looks like.
Andre going to go deep into the penultimate corner and gets just a little bit too loose coming there, a little bit too much of that inside curve possibly, and gives up a huge handful of positions. This has huge championship implications for the GT3M category, as now Andre has fallen down the field even further from his championship rival.
See Jake Luther just keeping it together up here. That was a good job to not have it spin completely out or have to run down the pit lane or anything crazy, because that pit entry comes at you fast and there's a very, very hard wall that you will meet in a hurry right there.
So 5 spots now turns into 8 spots. Jake Luther running in 6th place, sitting very pretty if they finish the way they do now to take over that GT3 AM championship. So he's got to continue to fight to keep his spots and possibly make even a couple more and to try to finish in that top 5.
And Connor, as we see on the track map, just a big bubble of traffic he's having to fight through right now. And it's in the slowest part of the track, coming through these big, long left-handers, just having to sit here and wait on traffic to make up its mind. Can't move them out of the way, just have to live with them.
The fortunate thing for Connor McClellan is his competitors in front of him are still dealing with GT3 traffic, so they're not going to be able to capitalize, and they're only going to have just a couple minutes of free air as we see a very, very gutsy move. Connor McClellan getting those elbows out, finding the lines where the cars are not, getting his way through this traffic like a carving knife through turkey. Andrew Gajardik, the gap now down to 13 seconds. He has to be thinking about that. He has to know that gap is getting smaller and smaller. Dustin, what can he do?
That's, as we saw there, he kind of got into a braking zone right behind GT3. Honestly, I think he could have laid off, gave a little bit more space to GT3 and attacked the corner apex a little bit harder and lined them up for exit. Kind of move to the point where you're slower a little earlier to gain a lot more down the straightaway after the braking zone.
You see a big gaggle of GT3s here, and it looks like Jay Fuller may have gotten around Jake Luther, so that's one more spot back in Dre's favor. But Dre really needs to get it together and get some of those spots back that he lost earlier. We see the overtake here.
Yeah, just better traction around the outside, kind of pinched him onto that inner line. And that's pretty much all you got to do up there at the top of the hill is just get the better drive down the shorter straightaway.
Now that's a little counterintuitive, Dustin. Normally whenever you approach a corner, the car on the inside gets the better run and can carry more speed down the straight. But we're seeing a few moves happen on the outside. How does that work?
I believe it's mostly up to the kind of camber and off angle of that uphill, because you're going from an uphill to a downhill. As you roll over, it almost gives you like a banking effect. So it just makes you straighten up a little bit sooner and get the car pointed the way you want to go.
We now see Jake Luther has...
We got a car off in the wall right there.
One of the Ferraris off into the tire barrier.
That was Joey Rutledge in the 344 car, getting it wrong in turn 1.
Joey Rutledge coming through turn 1 and gets just a little bit wide. That curb, you mentioned it before, Dustin. That curb can be exceptionally dangerous, and it looks like he's going to get away with minimal damage. Kind of got a freebie there, just losing a lot of time.
Now we see an absolutely huge group of cars that he's getting caught up in, unfortunately. Now that he's back up to speed, he is just absolutely surrounded.
We see there, now he's side by side with the 296 as we go on board. He's going to have the outside line through turn 4. Can he keep it there on the outside? This is another one of those corners where sometimes the outside can be faster, but no, the 296 is going to pull in front, and he's going to follow the pressure of the 346 now as they enter the kind of blind turn 5 there in the run to turn 6.
He's just losing all sorts of time to these guys. kind of off his pace, not feeling the car yet. Hopefully not too much damage. You can see the left front fender is pushed in pretty well on that poor Ferrari. So hopefully not too much damage for him. He can get back up to pace here and get a few of these spots back.
2 spots behind him is Dre Divac, who is kind of sticking his nose out there to think about making a move around Kenneth. So if Kenneth can't get onto his horse and get around Joey Rutledge, then maybe he will fall victim to Dre. Dre really needs to be opportunistic here and get some of these spots back. As we approach the 40-minute mark, we should be seeing the LMP2s come at any moment now, don't you think, Dustin?
Yeah, this is pretty much their absolute planned pit strategy. They have to play it perfect, but they want to, as we see, LMP2
Jack
split in the middle there.
Jack Lee has his hands full with GT3
Absolutely
traffic and gets it wrong on the entry to turn 3. It has to run wide, ends up coming out in front of them still, but it introduces a bit of chaos to this battle.
It looked like Andre was going to get a pretty good run down here, but now he's going to watch cars fight that were upset by that LMP2.
Chris Sanchez with a big move into turn 4, but it's going to turn into an over-under for Dre. He's going to defend the position, but they're going to go side-by-side into turn 5. Who's going to come out here the better? Chris Sanchez keeping it alongside, and they're running down to turn 6, and Chris Sanchez not able to get the move done. Dre keeps the spot for now. The GT3s are also going to be thinking about pitting very soon, as we're under 20 minutes to go. When do you think that they start to look to the pits, as we now see the LMP2s hitting pit lane?
Yep. If somebody in the GT3s is crazy enough to try for some tires to get the car to feel a little bit better, they need to come soon, as Justin Hall actually does come in, because you want to actually use those tires up. You need a little bit more than 10 minutes on a set of tires to get the real effect out of them. So the sooner the better if you want tires.
Justin Hall in pit lane. We'll see if he takes any tires as we keep an eye on that timing tower. Jack Lee has managed to take over third from Connor McClellan, but Jack Lee has yet to pit this cycle. So we'll see him coming soon. But that gap up to Andrew Gajardik for Connor is right about 9 seconds. So he has closed down a lot of that gap through the pit cycle.
Once again, looks like Andrew had a bit of a faster pit lane time. Not believing that so much. He'd had an 18-second pit stop, but it's saying 34 seconds on pit lane for me. Everybody else is doing about 47 seconds down the lane, so I'm not positive that one's great.
That's pretty impressive if he's able to attack the pit entry and pit exit that much more. And you can't, surely he couldn't be saving fuel with the rate that he's having to do with traffic. Like, you may get an opportunity here or there, but when you're passing that many cars, you really have to be on the button. Do you think it's possible he saved that much fuel?
That's a question. I don't believe he could have saved that much fuel. It's just hard around these GT3s and this narrow of a racetrack. Like I said, you're always running into them. You're not going to have a good time to kind of lift and coast behind them.
We saw Jack Lee in the pits. Now Connor McClellan re-inheriting that P3 position. Now has the job of closing that 13.5 second gap to Andrew Gajardik. Andrew's job is to try to keep that gap as wide as possible. Eric Rodriguez looking maybe to show the nose on the inside here, thinks better of it, pulls back in line, thinks discretion is the better part of valor, follows the BMW ahead, but is going to get the better run off of turn 3 with the run down to turn 4. Maybe possibly set up a move here. You get a lot of slipstream. The BMW notoriously good on brakes, though, so decides to keep it in line for now, running P8 in the GT3s. Oh, and a little bit of contact there.
Getting just a little bit too close in the braking zone. You said the BMW was good on brakes, and it kind of caught him off guard. The Porsche wanted to go a little bit faster, minimum speed through the apex, just was not able to keep it off of the BMW.
That Porsche is definitely an apex hunting machine, and you're absolutely right, was not able to keep it off of the BMW that was going just a tad bit slower there at the apex. Now, maybe showing the nose here again, going into the penultimate corner. That's a very bold place to try to set up a move. Does not do it, but he's going to dip into pit lane and try to undercut him.
That's, like I said, one of the two options. If you feel like you're faster than the car ahead, they don't pit when you need them to. You pit, get out in front of some clean air, and go run them down before they can pit.
Kevin Medina and Andrew Korostecki having a good battle here, running nose to tail down the start-finish straightaway, approaching turn 1. they're going to be thinking about pitting soon as well. This is another BMW on Porsche battle as we see Zachary Robinson coming out of the pit lane behind them, a lap down to them. So the lap time being so short here, sometimes you can find yourself being laps down when you take your pit stop. And that's exactly what's happened to Zachary Robinson. That'll shake back out, and he'll work his way back onto the lead lap as the leaders begin to pit. But now we see Andrew Korostecki is going to have a good run down the run to turn 4. Does he stick out his nose here to make a move? Looks like Kevin Medina is going to show defensive at first and then fade back over to the racing line. No move is coming yet. I suspect here, do you think Andrew is waiting to try to jump him in the pit lane?
Yeah, it's definitely showing, he lifted really early coming down that. So maybe he's trying just to eke out an extra lap over his opponent. Maybe he's just thinking, if I don't get right up on him, maybe he'll think I'm laying off, and then you can surprise him with a move later coming up to turn 3.
Just about 14 minutes left to go in this race, and don't look now, that gap from Andrew Gajardik to Connor McClellan is 8 seconds. We're looking at the GT3 leader in the pits now. Does not look like he took tires, fuel only, as he's going to pull out. Will Coffey is going to inherit the lead temporarily until he stops, and unless he can make a really, really good pit stop, he's going to give that lead back to Diego Era. There could be the opportunity for him to close that gap a little bit, but do you think he's been saving any fuel?
That would be hard to do. I mean, you're trying to chase down the leader. I don't think you're saving fuel that much. I think you're trying to get through the traffic and just giving it everything you have, if it's me.
A late race battle forming here for the top 5 in the LMP2. Jack Lee stalking Joshua Benjamin now as they make their way through some GT3 traffic. The GT3s are a little bit spread out now, going to make it a little bit easier to deal with the traffic. They could actually start to fight for position, as we see now Andrew Gajardik coming down the start-finish straightaway with that ever shrinking margin back to Connor McClellan. He's got to be aware of it. He's got to be thinking, I got to go faster. Do you think he has anything left when Connor gets there?
That's just a straight up battle. May not prove to go his way, but if he can get intermingled with some of these GT3 cars, it can be incredibly hard to find enough room to get an LMP2 through anything.
So you think that Andrew Gajardik is going to be at the mercy of traffic? That is a dubious proposition and a position I would not want to find myself in, as we see Andrew Korostecki now breaks up that battle with his competitor pulling into the pits, and I think I heard an engine blow.
Something in the pit lane there did not sound too hot. I don't know who that was.
Somebody is having a party in the pit lane. We don't see any smoke to support that, so maybe if that was just an anomaly, or perhaps the commentary booth is haunted by the ghost of a expired engine. It was just trying to let us know it's here as Wayne Castile, your LMP2 leader, overtakes the BMW, who gets very, very loose there on the exit of turn 1 and manages to keep it out of the other cars coming out of pit lane. Wayne Castile has opened this gap up to 15 seconds over P2.
The fact he kept it off of the turn 1 curb and managed to save it there was really incredible. His momentum very easily could have put him up onto that sausage curb. And when you have the car that loaded that it's about to spin, it will absolutely do a 90-degree right turn, and it would have taken out so many people coming out of the pit lane.
As we see now, Andre Divac is ahead of Jake Luther on track, but Andre yet to pit. He still needs to come in and take his final pit stop, so that'll shake back out and put Jake Luther back in front. But how many spots will it be? I'm observing the sim chat now, and I'm seeing Dre spamming the pitting in button. We should see him coming into pit lane now, unless he's trying to pull a decoy move. Expect him to lift here on exit and pull it into pit lane. It'll be very interesting to see where he comes out and how many spots are between him and Jake. We see some of the other GT3s leaving the pit lane now. We see the 214 currently taking fuel service. Did not see him up on the wheel stands or on the jack stands taking new tires. It doesn't look like anybody has opted for tires so far.
To everybody here in the GT3s, you only need 10 minutes or so of fuel. So their pit stops are going to be 10 seconds or less. They're going to put the fuel probe in, turn it on, and that's about it.
We see Jake Luther with a head of steam coming down the start-finish straight, passes Andre Divac in the pit lane. right at about the start-finish line and is making his way up the hill, and it looks like this is going to shake out. There is going to be quite a few spots between them. We see in class there are 3 spots between them, but overall there are going to be more cars between the two of them. See, Andre Divock comes out in 11th, Jake Luther in 6th. So that's back down to 5th. So if Dre can get 1 or 2 spots here, he may secure the championship. We really need to track this progress. We have 10 minutes left in this race. When do you think the elbows start coming out?
I think they're already just about out. After halfway, and you know you need the spots to get some championship points, I think the gloves come off, elbows are out. And, I mean, he did a great job with the pit lane there. Just because he stayed out and saved a little bit more fuel, he made up 2 seconds over Jake on the pit lane alone.
Do you think staying out and having clean air is advantageous at all there and making the overcut work?
It's just going to be based on if your pace is faster than the people you end up having to race, no matter how you got there, if you can get the clean air and maybe avoid some LMP2s, you can definitely time the pit stop a little bit later and make up all sorts of time.
We see now Justin Hall leading Kevin Medina, leading Dre Divock. This is going to be one of the more interesting groups to watch as Dre has some spots that he needs to make up. We're also keeping an eye on this race for P2 in the LMP2, and it looks like Andrew's just hemorrhaging time both to Connor and Wayne. Now it looks to be a little bit off pace. Connor McClellan heavy on the brakes. You see the back end try to step out on him there as he gets the car woed up and is really, really on it, trying to get up to Andrew for that P2 position. A win is probably out of the cards, but that second step on the podium after a pit start would be pretty sweet.
As we see here on our stint length, they have been pretty much blow for blow on the pit lap. Don't know exactly their pit times, but this shows there's no difference. They both have probably the same exact fuel load and tires. So it's just an all-out pace race.
So that gap now down to 4.25 seconds, and time is ticking. There's only 8 minutes left in this race, so a bit of clean air here. Connor can really put in some fast-paced sectors and start to close that gap more. We see it down already another quarter second through just a couple corners, and I suspect that it's going to go down another couple tenths here after turn 1. Wayne
and now
Castillo
Andrew.
enjoying. Sorry, go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say, Andrew probably can see him coming in the mirrors now. So now's when you really get worried, is the car in front.
This is that time where you probably just want to reach up and snap that mirror off so you quit looking at it and just try to hit your marks. We're looking now at Eric Rodriguez on Joey Rutledge. Going to stick his nose out to turn 1. Going to try to overtake, outbrake him. Gets alongside. Joey Rutledge is going to let him have the spot. An easy, clean pass there for Eric Rodriguez to take over P12 in the GT3 category from Joey Rutledge. And now Dre Divock still in 11th, looking to get around Kevin Medina here, who's fell off the back of Justin Hall a little bit. That is not good news for Dre. He needs to get around Medina, get back up to Hall, and try to get as many spots as he can in the closing minutes of this race.
And unfortunately for him, it's not looking like he's going to have a lot of LMP interference. Maybe he thinks that's fortunate, but he's going to be pretty much just straight up pace for pace with his class for the next little while here.
We're on board now with Andrew Gajardik as he has to dodge a BMW that runs just a little bit wide there at the final corner, gets around it, maybe loses a couple tenths off that. That gap down to 3.6 seconds, getting it back up to 4 seconds, likely due to traffic. It's going to be tight here. He may be able to keep this position if traffic goes his way. Like you mentioned earlier, he does have a bit of clean air now and only 2 cars in front of him to get around before a big bubble of air. So this could work out in Andrew's favor.
It's just going to depend how quickly Connor can get up to him and clear this traffic. If they both clear it, then he's got some mad pace back there in 3rd place. It very well will come down to the line.
And you have to wonder if Andrew is saving any of his tires. As we see an incident, Dre Divock barely avoids the BMW of Kevin Medina. What happened here?
It looks like 314 once again comes a little bit too loaded through turn 1, gets up on that poor little sausage curb. BMW unloads in their hurry and just snaps him around.
That gives that gives Dre the free spot here as we're going to look at it slow motion. You're right. He gets up onto that curb. Both cars up onto that curb, but the BMW comes off the worst for it. Dre inherits the position and is one step closer to that AM championship. And he can't rest on this now. He needs to get up there and make sure to get another spot or two to make sure this is a done deal. Jake Luther still holding strong in 6th place, only 7.5 tenths off Jake Fuller. So he needs to be on the button now. He needs to make spots happen. Do you think he can get this done by the end of the race?
They have to pull out some mighty laps here. We're getting down to less than 5 minutes to go, and there's not a lot of extra lap time around here because it's so short. You're not going to get an extra, 5-minute Nürburgring lap or 10-minute Nürburgring lap.
Jack Lee has gotten around Josh Benjamin, but they are still fighting. They're dealing with a little bit of GT3 traffic now, but the cars are a bit more spread out, so there's going to be more room for them to race. We have just about 4 minutes left to go. Connor McClellan is trying to track down P2, Andrew Gajardik. The gap now 3.3 seconds. He's got to be setting quali pace laps now to catch Andrew, who is dealing and going to lose a little bit of time there to that Mercedes, but now he's going to have some clean air in front of him. Only the 86 ahead of him now for 2 turns, and that 86 is also an LMP2, so he should not be catching him very quickly. As Murray Walker said, it's one thing to catch a car, it's another thing to pass them. It's going to come down to the wire as we have 3.5 minutes left in this race, and that
big slide
down to 2.2 seconds.
He was absolutely pushing it over the crest of turn 1 there. Didn't get out to the curb, kind of caught it, and it slid before that, but he is lucky he was not another half a foot to the left, or that could have ended very badly.
We saw there briefly that Luther has caught Fuller, that gap down to a quarter second. We could see a pass for position there. Now Connor McClellan stalking, hunting, tracking down Andrew Gajardik, Jake Luther. They're getting defensive now. See the Ferrari taking the inside line to take the apex away from Jake Luther to make that pass a little bit harder, but he couldn't get the run up to turn 3 here. He's got a big load of slipstream. We're riding on board the car. Look how close they are. He's going to make a move to the inside, shows his nose. Now it's going to be who is going to be the last of the late breakers. Jake Luther makes the inside move. It gets the pass complete, but oh no, trouble for the 213 as he spins the car, and Jake Luther is able to avoid him. What happened there, Dustin?
Yep, Jay Fuller just kind of got hung around the outside and had to make the decision how hard was he going to push it to keep the position. And unfortunately for him, he got up on that curb and pushed it just too much. Rear end snaps around, and then you're just a passenger sitting there watching half the racetrack pass you.
So good news and bad news for Jake Luther. With that spin, also gives the spot to Dre Divock. So effectively is a wash now for points. But we have the Beard Bros, Eric Rodriguez, Dre Divock battling for position. This could have championship implications if Rodriguez can get around Dre. That could decide the championship in the M category.
That would be real unfortunate to lose it by getting past when you've been making all of this progress. But sometimes one of those guys just saves a little bit of tires and comes out of nowhere and surprises you.
A minute and a half left in this 60-minute race, and that gap now under a second. Connor McClellan definitely within slipstream range, and Andrew Gajardik having to deal with some GT3 traffic. He's going to have his hands full with McClellan any moment now, possibly even coming out of the final corner. We're going to see who gets the better run, as the 92 of McClellan is right there on the gearbox of Gajardik coming through the final corner, and we'll have to keep an eye on the flag stand. Yes, the white flag is out. It is coming down to the last lap. Who is going to get the second step on this podium, as we see Gajardik going very defensive. That's going to have some traffic that's probably going to play in his favor if he can get around them. But McClellan's going to get the better run out of turn 1. They're slipstream up through the S's leading up to turn 3 through the GT3 traffic. Going to split the Ford and the Mercedes. And Gajardik goes defensive and then decides to back out of it. McClellan is going to send it. Gajardik outbreaks himself just a little bit, and McClellan now takes P2 at the top of the hill. So Gajardik needs to buckle down and try to fight back for the rest of this lap. Justin Hall in P8 now ahead of Dre Divock. And we see the overall leader, Wayne Castile, making his way through the field here. Is going to come around for the checkered flag and going to win this race for the WSLR at Red Bull Ring. Your overall winner, Wayne Castile.
Yeah, absolutely measured drive, got out in front of the field, dealt with traffic well, never really saw him, which is a good thing. As we see Connor absolutely getting held up here by the BMW through the last couple of corners. Going to send it around the inside, get a really good run out on the curbs. And unfortunately behind him, he got pinched up by the lap traffic, wasn't able to kind of make a move to the line.
So Connor McClellan able to turn the pit start into a P2. You'd think if he didn't have to pit start, he would have had this one in hand easily. Diego Era now coming through the final lap for him. Looks like he's got a 4 to 5 second gap there over Will Coffey. Just needs to bring it home clean now. Will win in the GT3 category overall and in the GT3 Pro-Am category for this race as well. Coming through the final corner, Diego Era is going to be your winner for the GT3 category at Red Bull Ring.
And as we see Will Coffey coming across the line, flashing the headlights, doing a little dance in front of Q-Nin. Pretty close battle for those two coming to the line, but not quite for Q-Nin today.
Leon Clover also saluting the teams as he drives down the start-finish straight, flashing his lights for everybody hanging out on pit lane. Jake Luther is going to manage to finish P5. It's going to be very interesting to see who wins this championship, as he's only has 4 spots in hand over Dre Divock. I don't think that's going to be enough. I think Dre, as long as he doesn't wreck on this final lap. Actually, Dre's already finished. That's the race over. That was the last car across the line. So he needed 6 spots. I believe they use the point system that gives 1 point per position. So that's not going to be enough. So unofficially, Dre Divock is going to be your GT3 AM Series champion.
I mean, absolutely, what a race. What a finish for second place in the LMP2s. We see him hunting him down the whole race. And, I mean, there's just nothing you can do when they come to you and you fight them as hard as you can. And, you know, a little bit of lap traffic slows you up, and it's just watching it run away from you.
An absolutely frenetic 60 minutes. Cars dealing with traffic basically the entire race. Connor McClellan, for sure the entire race. Pit start to P2 overall, and we'll get those race results pulled up for you and go through them together. Your winner in the GT3 AM is going to be Kwok Nin. Jake Luther is going to come in P2, and we're going to reload these actually and go to the LMP2, I believe. Your overall winner is going to be Wayne Castile in that number 33 Moradness M Squad LMP2. Connor McClellan, pit start to P2. Andrew Gajardik, if 1 lap short of a race, who would have had P2, ends up P3 in that shove and drive it entry. Aubrey Kundal, P4 for the wrong stuff. Jack Lee, P5 for 499 Racing. Joshua Benjamin comes home in P6. Justin Barrera in the shut up and drive it 86 entry comes home at P7 and the LMP2s. Dustin, take us through the GT3 category.
We see our overall GT3 there with Diego Air in the 277 coming up to the win. Will Coffey close behind. Really good drive from Will today. Didn't put a foot wrong that we saw, and, you know, just unfortunately got a little tied up in the pit stops. Q-Nin takes your 3rd place for the GT3s. Leon Clover, Jake Luther, and Brian Long follow them, with Andrew Korostecki and Justin Hall close behind. Joey Rutledge, Kevin Mededa, and Jay Fuller round out the first page of our results.
Brandon Johnson is going to come home 19th overall. Lilac Zier in 20th. Matthew Dweeter, P21. Now, this is overall. This is not in class. Overall, 22nd, Kenneth Michael. P23, and likely your GT3 AM champion. The wrong stuff, 301 entry of Dre Divock. P24, Eric Rodriguez. P25, Chris Sanchez. P26, Dominic Wow. Angelecchio. Forgive me, Dominic. That one surprised me. P27 is going to be Bradley Alvis. In P28, Zachary Robinson. We have an LMP2 back here in P29 after some trouble. Chuck Morrow having a race that he'd rather forget. In P30, Stephen Finch. P31, Braden Carroll. P32, Michael Hillier. P33, Billy Bowerman. P34, Augustin Castro. P35, Thomas Fisher. P36, with possibly the worst luck of this race, Bjorn Stange, who got collected as an innocent bystander early in the race. And finishing last is Christian Gritzko. Well, Dustin, like you said, what a race. And I'm looking, and I'm expecting to see some people pop into the interview booth, and so far, nobody. So tell us what you thought.
As my first experience with this section of the league, I've definitely been a part of the endurance broadcasts. But, absolutely fantastic racing, start to finish. You never really saw anybody make huge mistakes, nothing kind of intentional. Just a few braking maneuvers that were, rough. It's a hard track. But these drivers handled it exceptionally well, especially when you throw in the fact you have LMP2s around the bull ring, as it should be called, not the Red Bull ring, the bull ring.
That is a very good point, and not a surprise that WSRL puts on a very clean league and a very clean race where there was a lot of traffic management going on. So, unfortunately, yes, we will jump to the upcoming streams. I do not have that sheet in front of me. Dustin, are you able to tell us what the upcoming streams are?
Oh.
It's almost like I showed up at the last minute unprepared. What do you think, Dustin?
A little bit. It's almost like we are absolutely scrambling and waiting for them to show up.
Oh, so for the upcoming streams here, Thursday night, November 10th, we've got the Dallara IR18s. It says the Nürburgring on your upcoming broadcast. That is false. I do believe, Randall, correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to be at Belle Isle this week.
That's the word on the street, Belle Isle for those Indy cars. And then also Thursday night, the Spec 5 World Tour is going to be at Phillip Island in the MX5 Global Cup cars. Then this Sunday, 8:10 p.m., XSLR is going to be in the VW Beetle Lights at Bark River. That's a race you're not going to want to miss. And it looks like now we finally have some interviews. So I'm going to pull in the man that started in the pit lane and drove it all the way to P2, Connor McClellan. Tell us about that race.
It was probably not one of my finest performances. Pit lane to P2 is great and all, but I didn't really feel very comfortable in the car. I sometimes missed braking points, but it was a good result, and I think that comfortably seals the championship with that finish. So I'm quite content after all.
Well, you heard it here first. Connor McClellan, unofficially your LMP2 champion in WSRL. That traffic management skills that you had to exhibit today, is that the biggest challenge you've had to face?
Yes, because normally when I feel like when you're in the lead, the GTs notice that like you're not the most important, but they kind of give you some space, and you also have the freedom of controlling the race, so you don't have to send it into corners or like be aggressive. But when you're this far back, you have to make the moves to make up time. You can't just wait around. So some of the moves I did were a bit sketch. I think the fight with P2 at the end was that could have gone wrong very quickly, but it didn't. So
I can assure you it made for a very exciting broadcast that was quite a mess of cars that you had to drive through. So tell me about those opening laps when you had to make your way through the GT3 field while they were all still completely bunched up from the start of the race. How hard was that?
I was shitting bricks, like honestly, it was because it's opening lap chaos, and especially in GTs, they're all super close together. And I was so scared because it's all just straight braking zone, that they would just crash into each other, or I would make a mistake because I wouldn't, like, because you brake earlier on T1 or lap 1. So navigating all that was spooky, to say the least. But I was glad to make it through without any damage or anything.
So after a very, very impressive drive, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go?
I dedicate this win to my bird Yuki, who has died this morning. So yeah. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you, but that win was for her.
So, rest in peace, Yuki. That was your overall P2 and pit starter, Connor McClellan, your unofficial champion for the LMP2 category. Congratulations, Connor. And next season, hopefully we see you back up here.
Well, we'll see. Thank you.
And Dustin, I believe you have... I think we're going to save Dre and Will for the end. Let's start with Q Nin.
All right, then. It looks like I did find Q-Nin. So, Q, I just want to give you congratulations on a great race there in that very striking black and yellow Porsche. How was the start of the race for you?
It was pretty fun. That was my... I never did the GT3 in this league before, so I was in the LMP2, but since I wasn't going to like win the championship or anything, I wanted to give the GT3 a shot and see how the race was in that division, and it was pretty fun. I really enjoyed myself.
I know as a Pontiac driver in PCC, it's always kind of nerve-wracking when you see the leaders start to actually come around. How was the experience going from the fast class to being the one that has to look in the mirror a whole lot more?
When I first started iRacing, I really didn't like driving the GT3s in the multi-class with the LMP2. Back then, I was very pressured. I got nervous very easily. But ever since I started driving the LMP2 this past 2 seasons, I really got the feel of the LMP2, and I know where the LMP2 can make a pass safely or whatnot. So going down into GT3, as long as I keep my line and see where that LMP2 is sticking my nose, I just safely let him pass.
That's always the good move for the slower class. Don't make it too crazy. How are you feeling out there with those tires? I know this track is always horrible for tires. Did you manage them pretty well, or were you struggling at the end?
I was struggling at the end a little bit. It's just something weird about the Porsche, to where when I do fuel, anytime whatever the fuel cap is, when it gets halfway, it gets a little bit weird to control. I can't get the hang of it, so I had to just calm down, drive a few laps, change the brake bias to see if I can control it. As the tires did wear down, I checked my brake bias. I was down maybe 5 or 6% from the default brake bias, and just going down just helped me turn the car a lot.
Sounds really well managed. Looked good out there the whole time. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank tonight?
I want to thank the whole WSRL team. It's their maybe 2nd season into hosting a league, and I really appreciate everything. And everything for what they've done for the league, and my team, and you guys for broadcasting the show.
Thank you so much, Q-Nin. Have a good one.
You too.
And I believe Randall will have Jake Luther, our GT3 AM winner of the night.
Easy, man.
Jake Luther
He close.
ends up winning the AM division. Tell us about your race.
Rulich. He was in first for AM most of that time, and he just got unlucky, I think.
Yeah, he did. He caught a little bit of the curve there on the exit of turn 1, I think, and was in the barriers. So tell us about your race. How much were you watching Dre behind you for that championship battle?
Yes, I was just speaking to them. Sorry, so just got I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, so the quality's gonna be bad. But yeah, I was talking to Dre literally 2 seconds ago. Where is this guy? How far is he behind me? And at one point, I was just I got to focus on what's in front of me. Had a couple of good battles with some guys, just trying to get some places back. I really messed up quali, so had my work cut out for me.
Well, you did everything that you could do. You had a very good result, finishing P5 overall. What was the highlight of the race for you?
I think it was it was at one of the J's. Forget last name. We had some great battles going on back and forth. I was like, I think half a tenth behind him the majority of the race, so it was nice, really close and fun. I think he got unlucky and spun on a curb, like literally second to last lap.
Yes, and unfortunately, that also gave a spot to Dre, which didn't really help you much for the championship. But overall, an exceptionally good race. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or shout out? Oh, he's muted himself, Jake.
Damn it. All right, we're back. Shout out to my girlfriend. I'm literally walking to the train station right now to catch a flight and go to Vancouver and see her. So, and shout out to the SUDI guys for chill and picking me up.
All right, well, congratulations on a very good race, and hopefully we see you here in the booth next season. That was Jake Luther, your AM division winner, and now we're going to pull in the admins for the WSRL League and your unofficial GT3 AM category champion, Dre Divock and Will Coffey. Tell us about that race, guys.
Yeah, that was a good race, man. It was nice to kind of hop back in the GT3 and kind of throw it around at this track. This track is tough, super tough, man. Like, you lose 10th or here, like you're gonna have a hard time making it back up because all these guys, we were all separated by like hundredths of a second, you know. But it was just about tire management and then also trying to stay off those incidents. And if you could do that, you could start seeing people slowly start falling off, and just kind of just played the safe game, and it worked out for me. It was a good time. So, Dave Coffey, by the way. Hey guys.
Dre, how much were you counting the positions between you and Jake Luther through the race?
I mean, pretty much the whole time, right? Pretty disappointed in my drive overall. Couldn't stay super consistent, and when I thought I had it, got unfortunate incident at the end. But yeah, Jake had an amazing race today, and kudos to him. It was a hell of a season, man. I never thought I would be up there, so I'm happy with myself. But I'm just happy overall, man, for everybody, and Will too, man. Will's race today he had the fastest lap in GT3. Shit,
Guys,
what a stud.
Hold on, Adam.
Okay.
Hey now.
Dre, you set me up for my next question. This is the final race of Season 2 for WSRL. You guys have got a really big outfit here and a great show. What can we look forward to for Season 3 out of you guys?
Well, I mean, Will's got the winter warm-ups going on this December, starting soon, I believe, right, Will? When does that start?
It's next week, actually.
Next week. So we're doing some winter warm-ups where we're going to kind of do some testing with some new cars and check out turnout and see kind of where we're going to go from here, and see if there's any big changes that might come to Season 3.
That's awesome to hear. Is there maybe any surprises you can let us in on early?
Will, do you want to give us anything?
No, that's your thing, man.
We do got. There'll be some times. There'll be some different race lengths.
So we're gonna see some changes in format. Okay.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
a little
I
bit.
thought you were talking about something else other than that. Yeah.
No.
Okay, my bad. Yeah. Sure. I'd love to talk about that. Yeah, so we're looking at a couple different cars. So we're just kind of flinging around, see what the community wants. GTE, GT3s. Maybe if this P1 comes out just after the new year or whenever they say it is, we'll check it out. Maybe we'll do some bops so we can actually get some P1, P2, GT3. Basically, just want to kind of throw around different times, different fuel settings in the car, keep it challenging for everybody, and then at the end of the winter workouts after hour-long-ish race, we'll see what everybody likes,
Okay, Adam, I know you're chomping at the bit. Now you can ask some questions.
Okay, my bad. Now, there are a few things now that as you guys kept talking, I have to talk about. I'm going to address the elephant in the room between you two right now. And all of the... I'm just going to say it because Dre said it last week. All of that shit talk, Will. You turned it around and you absolutely beat him this week. How does that feel for you, Dre, and Will?
It was pretty good. I was using an Xbox controller last week, so when I drug out all the gear and started using. I basically took the cast off my accelerated foot. So once I was able to use like all my limbs and use some equipment, I was like, all right, yeah, I'll go out there and chuck it around. You know.
Okay, Will. Okay. You little bastard. Yeah, no, he kicked my ass this race. I'll give him that, man. He was I have nothing to say. I was slow as shit, man. I couldn't get into a really good groove. Even practicing this week, I just felt like I just didn't have the pace, and I kind of knew Will was gonna light me up today. So maybe one day I'll get back at him.
That brings me up to my next point here, Dre. Right now we're looking at your car, and you've got a gorgeous beard on your car, right? That beard is gone.
Yeah.
That is
Sure is, yeah.
That is exactly. You can't change good things, Dre. That's probably what did it, man. You cut the beard off, and then it's just you got slower.
I thought I was gonna have a little more aerodynamics out of it, but it didn't help.
That's it for me.
Yeah, it's growing back out. It's growing back out. You know,
yeah.
just had to change it up for a minute. You know?
That's it. That's it for me. If you guys have anything else for him, go ahead.
No, I think that's everything that we have. Great season for both of you guys. This is an incredible league. It's been great to watch, and we can't wait to see you guys back for season 3.
Appreciate
Thank you guys. Yeah, go. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, like I said, that you guys have been awesome. Like basically giving us coverage and everything else. You guys fight through like some of the technical difficulties we've created for you. You guys have performed so well. It's been cool hearing all the different personalities and everything else. And it basically just turns like, you know, just a bunch of dudes that just like to sling it around the track, you know, like you guys make it professional. So like it really is what everybody loves. So I just want to say thank you. You guys really are like next level in just the performance and announcing and everything else. So just thank you guys. You guys made it all worth it. So
yeah, I'm gonna second that. You guys just did an amazing job, man. And like Will said, we threw some stuff at you, and you're like, "What is going on?" But you guys did a really good job of handling it all. So awesome.
I've watched many of the replays from this league's races, and I finally got to commentate on one. It's been a pleasure. And this has been Dre Divock, Will Coffey, your admins for WSRL series, and Adam, Dustin. I think that's all we have tonight. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I've seen part of this series on YouTube, and they never disappoint. There's always a good race going on, no matter the track, no matter who's in what car. Somebody will put on a show, and I'm just glad I was here to commentate on it.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, so we've had this this league now for 2 seasons. Just ended their 2nd season with them tonight, actually, and you know, the one thing that I can say is they've definitely helped slow motion broadcasting grow, given us some challenges, as Will and Dre both talked about, but they've helped us get bigger and get better with our craft. So, you know, just on the company side, it's really cool to have a league like that, and we've got a couple others that do that as well. But they kind of stick around and let us grow and kind of use them as test beds. So thank you to the whole WSRL organization for letting us do that. But when it comes to the racing, I don't think there's ever been a bad race here in WSRL. And the turnout that these guys get every week is just absolutely unbelievable. So, yeah, I kind of backed myself into corners. It's never always clean, but you know how well they race alongside each other and together with the amount of cars they have on track is just something that is really, really amazing. So hopefully they can keep it up.
All right. Well, without any further ado, I've been joined in the commentary booth tonight by Adam Thompson, Dustin Allis, and Adam has been pulling duty all night in the production trailer. As we look forward to season 3 of WSRL, we want to give a final wish of fair winds and following seas to Connor's bird, Yuki. I'm Randall McGrew, signing off for Slow Motion Broadcasting and the end of season 2 of the Wrong Stuff Racing League from Red Bull Ring. Good night.